Here we are, episode 5? I almost said 4. Episode 5.
We're cruising
Yes,
through
we are.
this. We have so many good tips and tricks for folks, and I'm so excited that you had the capacity to take this on with me because everybody else
You're
would
the
have been
brainchild, though.
too much.
Kudos to you.
Too much, Emily.
No, I'm here for it. I'm glad we're doing it. We're doing it every week. It's awesome. And you have lots of really good ideas. And we're going to have lots of fun people on our show soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have reached out to some other brokers and loan officers who are excited to educate us on what they know and to share that information with everybody else. I think a lot of what we talk about in our business is so vague to our clients because it's not something that they hear about on the day-to-day. So being able to have this compilation of information will be so helpful.
Mm-hmm. And I'm finding it very entertaining for my drives to and from places because they're like a good 25 to 30 minute pods. It's awesome.
Today's episode is all about listing appointments. We've focused heavily on buyers. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what it looks like to put your property on the market. Mm-hmm. And I'm holding this book awkwardly in my lap.
For the listeners,
yeah.
Emily is holding a book.
I'm holding this book. You can't see it. But it is an outline of some of the things that we would present to a seller when we go to a listing appointment. And it talks about some of the resources and the marketing that we are going to do, how we price a home. But we're going to kind of run you through it so that you know. And if you decide that you're interested in listing a home and would like your own booklet at the house, just give us a call because we will happily drop this off for you so that you have it or send it via email. Yeah. It's a great resource for those of you who are considering selling in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yep. It's also very visually appealing, I'd just like to say.
Sarah's is very pink.
Pink.
Mine is black. I mean, it's boring,
yours is very clean and streamlined. I am certain. Anything that has my name on it probably has pink in it.
Yeah, she's all about the pink. You told me you were going to wear pink.
I did.
Today.
I texted Emily. I said, I'm going to wear hot pink. And in fact, I'm wearing all black.
I know. She walked into the broker's open. And I was like, what the heck is this? I'm in my Frida Kahlo shirt. I've got prints for days. I was going to match your energy.
It's all right. We're matching our vibes in a way.
Yeah.
We're matching. So we're going to talk about the whole process of a seller listing their home, from meeting with an agent and how an agent's going to walk through your home to prepping your home for the market and giving you lots of stats and information about your home so that you're more educated on how your home is going to present to the consumer and the best way to put your home out there to get the best offer with the best conditions and make it work for you.
So in the last 12 months, I have personally sold 2 of our properties.
Your own personal properties.
Personal properties that were Airbnbs. And one of them we put on the market with just the Airbnb photos and all of the staging that we had for the Airbnb. And it did not get much traction. So we decided to pull it off the market, wait a few more months, and come back in the spring. And when we did that, we took on a different approach. We decided to go for staging. We decided to do a whole new listing photos so that it would look fresh and clean, and it sold so quick. So I think that from my experience, you have options, just like you do as a buyer. Some of those options are going to help you get to the finish line, and if you decide not to do them, of course that's your choice, but you might struggle a little bit along the way. And having gone through that myself, I know how much time and stress that takes. So when I like to go to a listing appointment, I try to put myself in the seller's shoes, right? Mm-hmm. I try to imagine, okay, here's somebody coming into my house. They're probably going to judge me. They've seen so many different houses that are way nicer than mine. And
I would definitely think that too, yeah.
I'm a little bit embarrassed. I'm not sure how much my property will go for. I know what I've seen online, but it's kind of like a blind date, right?
Yep. Yeah, somebody's coming into your home to basically you feel like they're sort of assessing your life and how you've lived your life and whether that will appeal to other people besides just you who has lived in it. Because most people, tailor their home to how they like it, and you don't think about, okay, well, when I sell this on to the next, will this appeal to other people? Because, well, some people do. Some people do think about the resale value right away. But if most people are living in their home to be comfortable for how it works for them, and now somebody's coming in and telling you, move that, maybe they're not. But they're going to give you some feedback on how to appeal to the masses.
And let me be very clear, most of the homes that we walk through are not in great condition. There are some that are really well done, that are staged, and you can tell that they put a lot of money and effort into presenting the best version of this home. But the flip side of that is it really depends on what your price point is, your area, and what you're looking at. So if you have an older home that hasn't been sold for over 10 years, the amount of stuff that you collect over the years is going to be substantial. And I've seen it all. I've been in homes where there were boxes like floor to ceiling packed in and 13 cats living throughout the home. And I've also seen just a blank product where there's really nothing inside of it. It's all been cleared out. And so there really is no judgment coming from us. And we aren't designers. We know designers. We have suggestions for you, but that's not what we're here to do, is to throw shade at the way you're living.
No shade. Just here to help.
Yeah.
Get you the best dollar for your house.
So I had a listing appointment this last Sunday, so it's kind of top of mind for me. I was referred by a friend of mine to go out to her aunt's house and just take a look around. Again, the person that I was meeting hadn't purchased a home in over 10 years. And there's a funny thing that happens when you stay in a home long enough. You get a sense of what doesn't work for you. Like over the years, you're like, I would never buy a house that has this again. I wouldn't buy a house that has that again. It'll look at this and look at that. And what we forget is that the person who is probably going to purchase the home has not had those same opportunities as you. So the way that it is presented really does depend on what kind of category of price point it's going to be in. So what I like to do is I like to come and just introduce myself and meet the family and ask a lot of questions. My first visit isn't about, hey, this is what I think your price should be. This is when I want to put it on the market. This is what I think you need to do with it. It's actually, tell me a little bit about where you want to move. Tell me a little bit about why it no longer works for you. What are your favorite features? And then going around and taking pictures of all the rooms, because we as the agents typically can't see what it looks like on the inside because it hasn't been on the market for 10 years. So those pictures, everything that you've changed on the inside, all of that has changed. And I want to make sure when I go to create my listing projection or what I think it's worth, I have the freshest information.
Because you're going to be comparing it to other homes that are either on the market or have sold recently, and taking those photos and having, copious notes about what updates have or haven't happened in the home is going to be the information that you use to compare to those other homes, which is in turn how you get to the best listing price, which I know you're going to talk a lot about the difference between what you see on Zillow with that Zillow's estimate and what we do on our end as a comparative market analysis, and how they're vastly different. Similar-ish in that they're going to give you a ballpark number, but if you ever look on Zestimate and it's like, this house could be $550,000 or $650,000, you think to yourself, what is that $100,000 difference in there? That's where the comparative market analysis comes in and really gets into the nitty-gritty of a much closer ballpark than that. $100,000, especially in that price point, is a huge percentage.
Life-changing.
Yeah,
it's life-changing.
It's a huge percentage of that home, which is why maybe don't look at just the Zestimate and refer to these comparative market analysis that a realtor is going to give you when they come into your home for a listing appointment.
And one of the things I like to do before I go into another person's home is pull up what recently sold in your neighborhood? How old was the product? What was the square footage? I also like to look up the MLS because usually they haven't pulled all that information off. I can see, did that person have an inspection? How many showings went through? So I pull out my computer after I've taken my pictures and I've kind of created rapport with these folks and just say, okay, so in the last 6 months, this is what has sold. This is what's similar to your square footage. This was the condition it was in, because you can see the pictures online. So we talk about, did the person have their stuff still in the home, or was it completely moved out? Was the home staged? Does it look like they have put in new appliances or new cabinets, new fresh paint? All of that's going to compare to your home, and the people who are looking to buy a house are going to expect that the products are similar if you're going to price them similarly.
And we keep saying the word staging, and I know most people know what that is, but staging is essentially where either someone generally comes in and uses rental furniture to basically clear out a house, make it seamless and aesthetically pleasing throughout the entire home, as opposed to maybe more personalized furniture of your own that looks like, oh yeah, a family definitely lives here. So there's a couple of different options, and we can jump into a little bit more of what that looks like. But when we say staging, we mean generally we're referring to the fact that you have cleared out your personal belongings and it is staged to look beautiful, like in a magazine. So
like a magazine.
Yeah, like,
yes. I felt like my Airbnb was staged, right? There was furniture.
Yeah, because I'm sure you curated it beautifully for rentals, because that's what is appealing to.
But it was meant to be lived in,
Yeah.
right? It's not a show box. And so
Right.
what I found was when I had my own personal furniture in there, people didn't get the same sort of magical connection to the home that they did once I had a legitimate stager come in and have a cohesive look throughout the home. We also did some painting throughout, which I think really helped make it feel cleaner. But let's go back to the stats, because it's in the stats where we kind of help our sellers understand, what is your competition going to look like? How many days are there going to be on market? How much product do we actually see coming to the market every single month? So I'd like to go back 12 months and say, okay, 12 months ago, this is how many homes were for sale. And then each month what that looks like, so that they have a better idea of what the seasonality is in their specific area, and how many homes they're going to have to compete with once they hit the market. Less homes to compete with, the better off you are.
Yeah,
the more
better for the
likely,
seller.
the more likely you are to get your price point.
Yep. Absolutely. And the stats are really what should be speaking the most to the seller, because in the end, it's sort of all about, it's not all about numbers. I know there's a lot of emotion that comes with selling your home, but the numbers don't lie. That's the stats. That's the information that is out there telling you this is what homes are selling for. And
how many days you're going to need to be on the market, how many showings you're going to have, how long it took to get under contract. These are all things that we wouldn't find on Zillow specifically. So I think that that's one of the advantages of meeting with an agent early on, to kind of get a sense of, okay, here is my range, and if I decide to prep the house a certain way, I will probably be able to get on the higher end of that range. If I decide to sell it during a certain period of the year, I'll probably get a higher price point. These are all things that I kind of try to get my sellers in the right mindset for, because having been on the market and not selling your home is a real bummer, and I've been there.
I can imagine. Yep. And as far as what goes into prepping your home, there's lots of different things that you can do with that, but it's sort of looking at it as an investment into selling your home. If you put a little bit of more time and energy, and maybe sometimes money, investing into your home, you can then perhaps sell it faster or for a higher dollar, which is always the goal. The longer on the market, usually results in either perhaps a price reduction or less interest because it sort of peters off. So anything you can do up front to invest in your property, depending on the price point that you're selling in, of course, can really be beneficial. So what are some of the things that you can do to prep your home for listing?
Yeah, one of the things I recommend to my clients is that they get a pre-inspection. That way they know going into it what everybody else is going to find.
Or want to do on their own, because they're going to want to do an inspection if you're a buyer, generally.
Exactly. Because I represent buyers, I always tell my sellers, hey, listen, if I were to walk through this home with a client, what I would tell them first is to get an inspection done. That's because we as the agents don't know what's inside the home. We don't know how it functions and works behind the scenes. And having that information will give the buyers a sense of how much work they're going to need to be able to do in order for it to be livable. I think that having an inspection beforehand makes sellers a little bit nervous because they're like, well, then we're just telling everybody. And information is golden, you guys, because once you have that inspection report, you have the opportunity to make those changes if you want, or you can price the house based on what it is that needs to get done and say, listen, we know that some of the heaters in this house don't work, but it's being sold as is, or we know that it's going to need a new roof in 5 years, but it is being sold as is. I think in the last episode we talked a little bit about how I had a buyer who put in an offer with an inspection, even though they said, hey, we're not going to do any repairs.
Oh, the sewer,
and they
the sewer line.
did have to end up doing those repairs because of what we discovered. Had they had that done beforehand, we probably wouldn't have offered on the property, knowing that there was this huge sewer issue. But if they had done it beforehand, they would have known and said, okay, maybe we can get ahead of this and get this done before we have buyers come through so that we can mitigate some of the worries that might come up.
And I know when I'm out with buyers and we see that there is an inspection report for a home and we request it and we get to look at it before we go to the home, it's just the more information, the better. We can go into this home and be like, hey, remember in the inspection report, it pointed out this, that, and the other. Well, the seller has taken care of that, but they didn't take care of this one thing, so that one, lets you know potential problems that you might have to fix down the line, or two, eliminates at least a few on that list that the seller has already taken care of. The more information that you can have about a house, the less uneasy a buyer is going to feel. So if a seller gets that inspection ahead of time, whether the seller chooses to fix those things before going on the market or not, it's just the information is out there for everyone to know, and everybody's sort of playing on an even playing field. They've got all of the same information that they're working with.
I think that trust begets trust, right? Once you share information with the other side, you say, hey, these are my cards, this is what I'm playing with, then it also helps to eliminate some of those buyers who might have written offers but weren't totally ready, right?
Yeah.
We've had lots of clients who do offers and then decide, oh my gosh, there's no GFCI in the kitchen, which is a tiny expense, right? It wouldn't cost them much at all.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter was they weren't necessarily ready. And because the seller never had the inspection done up front, they now have, as the buyer, the opportunity to back out. And that can be super detrimental to my sellers. So I just like to let them know, if you don't do the inspection, that's fine. That's your choice. It costs about $650, and that's a lot of money. However, it's a huge risk.
And also know that if you don't, there's a good chance that the buyer is going to request one. So then what you're faced with there is you're under contract, which is great, and the buyer does an inspection, and the buyer is going to find things. And the buyer might find silly things like that you could have fixed ahead of time, like caulking around the bathtub, right? Silly, easy fix, but to a buyer, they're going to see one little thing on that inspection, and they might want to ask for that, and then you're in this back and forth when really that's an easy fix that you could have done ahead of time had you known. And I, as a buyer agent, as representing a buyer, if I'm going in and I have this inspection, I already know the things that I can point out to my clients and be like, hey, look at this. Otherwise, I'm going in with a fine-tooth comb, which, we already are when we're looking at houses, but I can't test the furnace when I'm in there showing my client a house. I can't, I
check the water pressure.
I can't check the water pressure
figure
or
out
the
if
temperature.
the electrical has wiring issues.
But if I've got an inspection report I can refer to, while I'm not a licensed inspector, I must say that out loud, I see a lot of inspection reports and I can reassure my clients, hey, here's this issue that's pointed out, here's how you can go about finding the solution for it.
And you're going to ask for everything to get done.
Yeah,
that's what's going to end up happening. So that is one of the first steps that I bring up. I say, get the inspection done. It's better to know. It might make you feel a little bit nervous, but here's the truth of the matter. There are homes that are sold that are not in perfect condition. It just depends on what the price point is and how much competition you have.
And you can sell the home as is. Did we already say that?
Oh, yeah,
you can get the inspection report and say, hey, here's the issues we know are there. We're pricing the home appropriately. We're not in a position to do any of the work ourselves, but here, you have the information. If you want to buy the house as is, please go for it. It is priced accordingly. Let's get this.
And I just want to put a little plug in there. If you do decide that you want to get things fixed up prior to closing, Keller Williams has a concierge program that will allow you to borrow money against the equity in your home. And you could do those fixes with this borrowed cash and then pay that out at closing. So it really doesn't feel like it's coming out of your pocket because your price point's going to go up. It's going to be cleaner. It's going to be fresher. There's going to be less issues. It's going to sell faster. And two, you don't have to pay for it today. It gets paid out once you get that higher price point in the closing. Mm-hmm. So I just like to put that out there. The next thing is when we live in a home, we have so much more stuff than when we go to tour the home. So if you are thinking about selling your home today, I would recommend considering in your mind, this is what I tell clients, you need about 20% of what you're actually living with.
Mm-hmm. People want to be able to walk into your home and not imagine your life. They want to imagine their own. So if they see all of your own personal belongings, pictures, like whatever, decorations, anything that feels very personal to somebody else, they instantly have a limited view of what that home could be for them.
Also, you want to make sure that whatever furniture that you leave in the home maximizes space. So a lot of times when we meet with staging companies, their couches, their desks, they're teeny tiny. And there's a reason for that, because in our minds we see, okay, all right, it's got all this furniture in it, and look at how big the space is. Mm-hmm. I still have so much room. I could put this and this and this. You want that buyer to be able to visualize how big it is. And when it's full of stuff, you kind of minimize the space a little bit.
And I would say, weirdly, on the inverse to that, an empty home also can be detrimental, because personally, if I walk into a room, say a bedroom, and say it's not a particularly large bedroom, but I don't see any furniture in it, I immediately think, wow, this room is so small, I can't fit anything, because my brain isn't taking information from furniture sizes that I see and being like, oh, I can fit a queen size bed and a nightstand. If I look at a small bedroom, I'm like, can I fit what I need in here?
I love in Seattle though too, like the small bedrooms, they always put a queen in there, and I'm like, you guys, your king size bed will not fit.
Well, they always take the smallest bedroom and they put a desk in the middle of the room, not against a wall, and then when I see that staging, I'm like, oh, this is not a bedroom. This is it might be considered a bedroom on the MLS. This is an office.
Or a large closet.
Or a large walk-in closet.
Yeah. So I just think that having that conversation with my sellers right then and there is really important. I don't want them to think that they are required to move out. That is not true. I've sold homes that people have continued to live in. I've sold homes with no staging. Mm-hmm. Again, these are all options, but there are homes that go faster, and the ones that are staged or have less furniture tend to go 60% faster than the ones that aren't.
The other important thing is how available is your home to view for the consumer, and if you are still living there, chances are it's not as easily accessible because
Right.
one, you're living there, they're working around your schedule, they probably are checking with the listing agent to make sure it works for you. So if I see a home that's staged, I'm going to assume the seller is not living there because one, it's fake furniture. Half the time the beds aren't even real. The owners are not living there. And I can tell my clients, hey, this home's vacant, the owner's not living there. We can go really whenever you're available, as opposed to, let me put in the request.
Right.
Let's see if it works with your
How
schedule.
many times have you been out on a tour and something pops on the market and you're like, oh my gosh, you guys, this meets your needs. Can we go check this one out too? I've actually, in October, purchased with a client the day that a product came on the market because we were out on tour and I was just looking at the MLS and I was like, this is not all I've got for today. Actually, there's one more that just got posted 2 hours ago. Do you have a minute? Can we go check in on it?
And it was vacant.
It was vacant, and we put an offer in that day
There you
and
go.
got accepted because we were the fastest, and we decided to just kind of shoot our shot.
And there's so many different scenarios that can work for the sellers. Say you need to live there, but you're willing to be gone for a 4-day weekend. The first weekend your house is on the market. You're going to go stay with family. That listing agent's going to put on the MLS for all the other burgers to see, available to show anytime Thursday through Sunday. And then that agent's going to say, hey, we can go anytime that weekend, get their clients out there to see it. And that's kind of a compromise. You're still living there, but you've made your home super accessible for clients in that first week, which is always the most important when your house is on the market. So we're not telling you like, move out all your stuff, pay a bunch of money to have somebody come make it look like a magazine and go live somewhere else.
No.
But we are saying make your home available for people to see because that's how you sell it.
Absolutely. You know, if you saw a house that was on the market but you couldn't go tour it for another week and a half, that would be really challenging.
You're probably going to go find something else.
Yep. Or if the only time you can tour it is when they're home and they can remove pets and kids, and that doesn't work for your clients, again, they're not going to have the opportunity to walk through it.
Yeah.
Open houses are a great opportunity for lots of folks to walk through, but what I would typically say is that most of the buyers who are really ready to write an offer aren't going to be at your open house. They're going to be represented with their agent
In a
walking
private
through
showing.
it in a private showing.
Yeah. And if you are that seller that, can't, leave their home for 4 days, just know that your listing agents should give you a very real conversation that, okay, here's the parameters that we're going to work with. Just know it's going to be harder to show your house, so it's probably going to take longer to sell it. And that's just the reality.
So then after I leave the listing appointment, what I like to do is go home and write up everything that we talked about. So
I love if you were just to say, I just like to go home.
I do. I like to go home.
I just like to go home.
I just like to chill out on the couch, kind of watch a show.
I know that's not what you meant, but that's adorable.
No, I write down everything that we discussed. It sounds like you are interested in going on the market in this time frame. We will probably need to do another comparative market analysis before we actually set the price point based on when it is you want to put it on the
Right,
market.
because you don't need to put a price until the day you list it.
Exactly. So if something were to sell between now and then, we would utilize that information to kind of set what it is we think would be an actual price point. We want to be as close to that price point as possible because overpricing your house is one of the biggest mistakes you can make. It's going to reduce the amount of buyers that come in the house. It's going to increase your days on market. If you have to do a price cut, it's going to signal to the buyers that there's something wrong with your house or that you are an inflexible seller because you didn't take the advice of an agent who suggested that you should sell it for less. You thought that you knew more and therefore are going to be a little bit of a struggle to work with. When I'm running through my notes, the other thing that I'm going to do is schedule an appointment to chat with the seller about what does commissions look like, how much are you going to need to pay for representation. In the state of Washington, most sellers are still offering commission. Not all, but most.
Are you talking about to their agent or to the buyer side?
Both.
Yeah.
So after we had the lawsuit around commissions in the U.S. and figuring out who pays for what, there have been multiple states that are requiring buyers to pay their agents for the commission of the purchase of the home, which can be really challenging for a first-time home buyer because that's something that you cannot finance on a mortgage.
Yeah, that's just cash that the buyer would have to bring, additional cash the buyer would have to bring
In addition to earnest money and the down payment,
closing costs.
and closing costs, now they're paying for the commission. What we are seeing in the state of Washington, because it is visible on our MLS, is that most buyers are continuing to pay for a buyer's agent to come and bring the buyer through the house and to help that buyer get through closing.
Yeah, that's
Because-
being provided typically still by the seller. Now they have the option of how much they would like to bring to the table to offer to the buyer's agent. That's something that is still absolutely and has always been negotiable. But we are still seeing that being offered by the seller side, which is great for buyers. And we would tell our sellers that, hey, this is 100% has always been up to your discretion whether you'd like to offer that to the buyer. But just know that if you don't, one, they're probably still going to ask for it because that buyer probably doesn't have that cash to bring to the table. So that buyer's agent's going to probably ask for that in the contract anyways.
Because they already have an agreement with their agent
that
as
they're
to
gonna get
how
paid
much they're
somehow.
going to be paid.
Yeah.
So if you aren't offering it, that means that they might have to pay for it, which in some cases I have buyers who tell me, hey, if you see a house that's not offering commission, I'm not ready to go walk in. I don't have the finances to be able to afford to pay you and everything else needed in order to get inside this home. So it might also drive away competition from your listing because the folks who are coming through the door say, well, I might be able to write an offer where I ask for it, but it might also be that they're not going to offer it, and I'm just going to look for homes that are.
Yeah, like here's this other house that I also like, and I know it's not going to be an issue because they've already said up front that they're going to cover the fee for my agent. So why would I potentially get into this negotiation back and forth with this one seller who doesn't seem to want to pay my buyer when this other house is offering that to my buyer broker?
And if you look at the statistics, again, we're going back to numbers.
It's all about the stats.
The homes that are offering commissions to both sides go faster. It's just an easier transaction because there's less to negotiate. What we're seeing here in the state of Washington is typically between 5 to 6% that is split between two brokerages. Half would go to your seller's agent and half would go to the buyer's agent. And that is something that we want our sellers to know about beforehand so that it's not a huge shock when they get those closing documents.
Yeah, and it's always been up to the seller's discretion of how much either way they want to do that. But at least here in Washington, we are still seeing that sellers are choosing to do that option because it is, again, an investment in selling your property to get the best price and the best time out the door, shortest days on market. So it's all wrapping back into that investment on selling your home.
Yeah.
It costs money to make money.
It does. It seriously does. So when you think about listing your home, there are multiple steps to go through. There's a lot of information to take on, but ideally you would have an agent who makes it as seamless as possible, who would be able to kind of walk you through what it is that needs to get done and how to set yourself up for success.
We always wrap them back up to why it's just better to have an agent representing you because
Ideally, yes. Absolutely. And if you would like our helpful handbook, I'm going to pull it up here one more time about what it is that we do to market and sell your home. We'd be happy to send that to you. Reach out to us anytime. Yay. Thanks so much.
Bye.